Imagine you worked for years, passed every test, attended every interview, raised your right hand, and swore that oath. You became a United States citizen. You celebrated, you built your life here, and you thought that chapter was closed forever. But right now, in 2026, the federal government has set up a system specifically designed to go back and review your citizenship. And if they find something they don't like, they could try to take it away. This is not a rumor. This is not a headline meant to scare you. This is happening right now, and if you are a naturalized citizen or you know someone who is, this could directly affect you. And before I break down exactly what is changing, what the government is looking for, and what you can do to protect yourself, do me a quick favor. Hit that subscribe button right now, because over the next few weeks, I am going to keep covering every single immigration and policy update that could change your life. This is not the kind of information you want to find out about after it's already too late. Subscribe now so you never miss an update that matters. So let me give you the full picture here. The Trump administration has issued new internal guidance for 2026 that directs field offices of U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, also known as USCIS, to refer between 100 and 200 denaturalization cases every single month to the Department of Justice. Let that number sink in for a moment. 100 to 200 cases per month. That adds up to as many as 2,400 cases in a single year. Now, to understand why this is such a massive shift, you need to hear where we were before. From 1990 all the way to 2017, the United States averaged just 11 denaturalization cases per year. 11, not per month, per year. And during the entire Biden administration, only 24 cases were filed in total. So what is happening right now is not a small policy tweak. It is a complete transformation of how the government treats naturalized citizenship. By the end of this video, you will know exactly what denaturalization means, who is actually at risk, what legal protections stand between you and the government's new push, and the specific steps you need to take right now to protect yourself and your family. This is important information, and it is completely based on real government guidance and verified legal sources. So let's get into it. First, let's start with the word itself because a lot of people hear it and freeze up. Denaturalization simply means the government is trying to take away citizenship that was already given through the naturalization process. Think of it as the government going back in time and saying, "We made a mistake giving you that citizenship," or "We believe you tricked us." It is different from deportation, which applies to people who are not citizens. Denaturalization is specifically aimed at people who already went through the whole process and became citizens. And here's the key thing you need to understand. This is not a quick process. It cannot happen overnight. It cannot happen because an ICE agent shows up at your door and says so. Denaturalization requires a formal legal case filed in a federal court with a judge, with evidence, and with the government carrying the burden of proof. That legal process is your first and most important layer of protection. Now here is where it gets even more important. The Department of Justice issued a formal memo on June 11, 2025, directing federal prosecutors to, and I am quoting here, prioritize and maximally pursue denaturalization proceedings. This was not a casual policy suggestion. This was a direct order from the top of the DOJ telling lawyers across the country to go after these cases aggressively. And in December 2025, new guidance came down telling 80 USCIS field offices across the country to start building cases and sending them up the chain. So this is a coordinated nationwide effort with real staffing, real resources, and real monthly targets. Real quick, if this information is already helping you understand what is going on, imagine getting updates like this every single day. That is exactly what subscribers to this channel get. Clear, simple, no-nonsense breakdowns of everything that could affect your status, your rights, and your wallet. Go ahead and subscribe right now so you never miss something critical. So the next question you are probably asking is this. What are they actually looking for? What would make the government try to take away your citizenship? Here is what the law says and what the DOJ's guidance specifically highlights. The number one reason, the most common ground, is fraud or concealment. That means if you lied on your naturalization application or if you hid information that would have disqualified you and the government can now prove that, you could be targeted. This includes things like hiding a serious criminal record that existed before you became a citizen. It includes hiding gang or cartel connections. It includes failing to disclose a federal conviction that was directly relevant to whether you qualified. It also includes financial fraud, specifically things like fraudulently receiving pandemic relief funds or committing Medicare or Medicaid fraud if that happened in connection with your application or if it speaks to the honesty you were required to demonstrate. The guidance also specifically calls out national security concerns. If someone obtained citizenship but had ties to terrorism, espionage, or extremist organizations and hid those connections, they are at the top of the list. The government has also mentioned human trafficking, sex offenses, and violent crimes as categories they are focused on. Now, here is the reality. Most of these categories sound extreme because they are meant to be extreme. The law was originally designed to go after people like war criminals who snuck into the country under false names, people who truly committed serious fraud to gain access to American citizenship. The concern being raised now by legal experts and former government officials is that setting monthly quotas, 100 to 200 cases per month, means the government is under pressure to find cases even when the evidence might not truly justify it. That is the part that should concern everyone. But here is what most people miss in all the headlines. Let me tell you clearly who is not at risk. If you had a minor issue, maybe a DUI, maybe a small drug offense, maybe you were out of the country for too long as a green card holder before naturalization, and you disclosed all of that on your application, and USCIS approved you anyway, you are protected. Why? Because the government already knew. They reviewed it. They made a decision. The whole point of denaturalization is to catch fraud and concealment. If there was nothing hidden, there is nothing to uncover. This is a critical point that the panic-driven headlines often skip over. Here is another thing that surprises a lot of people. If you committed a crime after you became a citizen, the government cannot use that to denaturalize you. Let me say that again because it is that important. Crimes committed after naturalization cannot be used as grounds to strip your citizenship. The law only allows denaturalization based on what happened before or during the naturalization process itself. So if you became a citizen in 2010 and you got into legal trouble in 2018, that alone cannot be the basis for taking away your citizenship. You might face other legal consequences, but denaturalization is not one of them. Quick question: are you subscribed yet? Because here's the thing. Most people who watch a video like this will forget about it in 2 or 3 days, but if you subscribe, you will get reminders every time something new comes out that could affect your citizenship, your family, or your future in this country. It literally takes 2 seconds. Just tap that button now. Now let's talk about what happens if you do get contacted. This is where a lot of people make mistakes, and those mistakes can cost them. If you receive any kind of legal notice, a letter from the Department of Justice, a notice from USCIS, or anything that mentions a review of your naturalization, the very first thing you should do is stop and call an immigration attorney. Do not try to handle it yourself. Do not ignore it hoping it goes away. And absolutely do not sign anything without legal advice. Here is why that matters so much. In a civil denaturalization case, the government does not have to prove its case beyond a reasonable doubt, the way they do in a criminal trial. The standard they have to meet is called clear, convincing, and unequivocal evidence. That is still a high bar, but it is lower than a criminal trial. So if you start responding to notices without legal help, or if you accidentally say something that confirms details the government is trying to establish, you can make their case easier for them. An attorney can protect you from that. Now, what if ICE agents show up at your home or confront you in public? This is a scenario that is becoming more common as enforcement expands across the country. Here is what you need to know cold. As a U.S. citizen, you have constitutional rights that no ICE agent can take away on the street. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to an attorney. You have the right to refuse a search of your home or your belongings without a warrant. You also have the right to refuse to sign any documents presented to you. And critically, an ICE agent cannot tell you on the spot that you are no longer a citizen. That is not how it works. Denaturalization requires a federal court order. It requires a judge. It cannot happen because someone in a uniform says so in your driveway. If you are a naturalized citizen and you feel safer having proof of your status on you, a U.S. passport or a passport card is the best document to carry. You are not legally required to carry it, but in situations where there is confusion or a confrontation, being able to show that document quickly can help. Just remember that showing it is your choice. You are not obligated to prove yourself to anyone without proper legal process. Before I continue, I want to say something important. The people who are staying informed about these changes right now are the ones who will be prepared if something does happen. If you are not subscribed to this channel, you are relying on catching these updates by accident. Do not do that. Hit subscribe right now and join thousands of people who would rather be ahead of the situation than scrambling to catch up after the fact. Let's talk about the scale of what is being built here, because the numbers tell a very important story. Right now, there are approximately 26 million naturalized citizens living in the United States. The vast majority of them obtained their citizenship legally, honestly, and through a process that included rigorous background checks, English and civics tests, multiple interviews, and years of waiting. In 2024 alone, more than 800,000 people were sworn in as new U.S. citizens. These are people from every corner of the world, from Mexico, India, the Philippines, the Dominican Republic, Vietnam, and dozens of other countries. They followed the rules, they waited in line, they did everything right. And now they are watching the government set up a system that treats their citizenship as something that can be reviewed and reversed on a timeline measured in monthly quotas. The Supreme Court has repeatedly weighed in on how high the bar should be to take away citizenship. Back in 1943, the court stated clearly that citizenship should not be taken away lightly, and that the facts and the law should be, quote, construed as far as reasonably possible in favor of the citizen. And in 2017, the court ruled in a specific case that for fraud to be grounds for denaturalization, the misrepresentation has to have been material. That means it had to have actually affected the decision to grant citizenship. So if you made a minor error on a form, but you still would have qualified anyway, that alone is not enough to take away your citizenship under the law. What legal experts are warning about now is not that the law itself has changed. The law is the same. What has changed is the political will to push as many cases as possible through the system, and the concern is that with monthly targets in place, some cases will be brought that should never have been brought at all. That is what creates fear in communities that otherwise have nothing to hide. Now let's get to the practical steps you should take right now, because awareness without action is not enough. Here's what I want you to do. Number 1, gather and organize your naturalization documents. Find your certificate of naturalization and keep it somewhere safe and accessible. Make copies. Know where your old naturalization application is if you have it. If you do not have copies of your application, you can request them from USCIS through a Freedom of Information Act request. This gives you a clear record of exactly what you disclosed and when. Second, if you have any lingering questions or concerns about your own naturalization, whether you are wondering about something you said or did not say on an old form, or whether something in your history might look complicated, make an appointment with an immigration attorney now, not when you receive a notice. Now, an attorney can review your file confidentially, identify whether there is anything that could potentially be questioned, and advise you on how to proceed. Going in proactively is far better than being reactive. Most cases, when reviewed by an experienced attorney, turn out to be completely clean. But even if there is something complicated, knowing about it in advance gives you options. Third, apply for or renew your U.S. passport if you do not already have one. A valid U.S. passport is the gold standard of proof of citizenship. Having a current passport or passport card in hand is both practically useful and emotionally reassuring. It is proof of where you stand. Fourth, and this is especially important for families, make sure your children who obtained citizenship through you are also documented. If a parent's citizenship is ever challenged, questions can arise about derivative citizenship for children. Make sure those records are in order as well. And fifth, do not panic, but do not ignore this either. Here is the honest reality. The overwhelming majority of the 26 million naturalized citizens in this country have nothing to fear from this new push, as long as they were honest during their application process. The government's stated targets are people who committed serious fraud, who hid violent criminal records, who had ties to terrorism or cartels, and who lied about disqualifying facts. If that does not describe you, the law's protections are strong, and the legal bar the government has to clear is genuinely high. This is not the moment for panic. This is the moment for preparation and information. If this video helped you understand what is happening and what you can do about it, please make sure you are subscribed so you catch the next one. I will be covering more updates on immigration, USCIS policy, your legal rights, and everything else that directly affects your life in this country. And if you know someone who is a naturalized citizen or has family members who are, please send this video to them right now. They need to hear this. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next update.